Here's a thought you weren't supposed to have in the 80s. What if some of the decade's best bands never actually made it? The Malls, the Neon, the power ballads, everyone knows the big names. But a lot of seriously good bands got trapped between hype cycles, label battles, scene politics, and bad timing. They had MTV flashes, road warrior grind, and fans who swore they were next in line. Then the spotlight slid away. This story isn't just a list. It's a map of what went right, what went sideways, and how the most crowded decade in rock quietly buried giants in plain sight. And if you think you know who deserved more, let's see if any of these names change your mind before the last chorus fades. But the chain reaction starts where visibility should have guaranteed victory, and didn't. Zebra. You remember the faces in the choruses, so why didn't the moment lock in? Zebra had the kind of start bands dream about: a lightning fast-selling debut on a major label, polished songs, soaring vocals, and early MTV spins that kept their name in rotation. Ask fans who saw them live, and you'll hear the same thing. The performances were laser-tight but still emotional, the kind of nights that make you believe in bands again. Yet the momentum never calcified into ubiquity. Time turned them into a connoisseur's pick. Play them now and you hear a group that should have never drifted into the margins. Black and Blue looked like they were stamped for the mainstream. They had the sleek visuals, the pop metal choruses, and even help from Gene Simmons shaping the studio attack. Their videos were built for the TV era. Their songs felt aimed straight at radio. But the glam metal freeway was bumper to bumper. When the scene floods, even great drivers get squeezed off the road. What's wild is how well their catalog holds up. Sharp melodies, punchy production, and a sense of fun that didn't curdle. Years later, a lot of those tracks still sound like they should have cracked the daytime slot. Bullet Boys. Then there's Bullet Boys, who hit the airwaves like a switch got flipped. The Ted Templeman touch gave their debut the kind of pop spark and muscle you remember as soon as the riff hits. Smooth Up in Ya was everywhere for a minute. Car stereos, boomboxes, Saturday afternoon at the mall. It felt like liftoff, but attention in the late 80s could be a strobe, bright, hot, and gone. Lineup turbulence didn't help, and the next wave rolled in fast. Still, spin that first record and the voltage returns instantly. They bottled an era in 40 minutes, but that wasn't the whole story, because sometimes it's not the sound that held you back. It was the narrative wrapped around it.
Thanks for helping me.
Kingdom Come. What if sounding too much like your heroes becomes the anchor tied to your ankle? Kingdom Come walked into a storm. The comparisons to Led Zeppelin weren't whispers, they were headlines. And when a narrative like that bites early, it sticks. The irony? Under the chatter, you hear a legitimate band with sturdy riffs, a pounding engine room, and choruses that belonged in big rooms. Live, they could move bodies. On record, there were moments of real lift. But in the court of opinion, once a tag like clone gets stamped, it takes a crowbar to pry it off. Listeners who revisit them without the noise often come away surprised. There's more craft, more identity, more bite than the overheated debate ever allowed. And that points to a larger problem. When the scene starts deciding the story, the songs don't always get a fair trial.
Now that I know what love can be, but I think that you should warn me.
Saga played a different game. Progressive precision threaded through pop instincts. On the Loose still sounds like tomorrow's synths meeting yesterday's hardware. A clean, kinetic track that should have conquered every arena in America. Overseas, they were already there. In the US, they lived in that weird twilight between you've heard the single and you should have bought the album. Dig a layer deeper and you find meticulous arrangements that somehow never feel fussy. It's a welcome contradiction, brainy but built for a stage. And then there's Y&T, the people's champions. Ask anyone who caught them live, and you'll hear reverence. Summertime Girls gave them the radio calling card. The deeper cuts sealed the bond. They were a band's band with a fan base that stuck around, the kind of name that gets a nod of respect in green rooms and garages alike. They toured hard, they delivered, and they kept the flame burning even as trends shifted. If any group on this list makes you question how fame gets assigned, it's them. But image and geography weren't the only variables. Sometimes the stage show itself turned into both rocket fuel and roadblock. Lizzie Borden. When you turn the concert into a spectacle, you win attention and sometimes lose access. Lizzie Borden ran at the edge with shock theater presentation, elaborate props, horror-tinged storytelling, and enough blood-red stagecraft to rattle promoters in cautious markets. The headlines loved it, but headlines don't program radio. What got lost in the noise was the music, precision playing, sharp writing, and a frontman who understood that a show is supposed to be a show. Fans still talk about those nights like campfire legends. Part Forbidden Midnight Movie, part Metal Clinic. The problem with provocation is that it can overshadow the craft until time passes and people finally listen with fresh ears. When they do, they find a band that married drama to discipline better than most. If spectacle could distort the message, the opposite approach, pure club, sweat, sometimes disappeared in the fog of a crowded scene. Smash Gladys. Some bands were born for small rooms where the ceiling drips and the bass rattles your spine. Smash Gladys captured the raw, colorful snarl of New York glam without sanding down the grit. The shows felt alive, loud, swaggering, and just unpredictable enough to make you lean in. Mainstream doors never swung fully open, but the myth endured, and their singer, Sally Cato, is remembered with real affection by fans who were there. That's the thing about club legends. The stories outlive the charts. Icon are a different kind of cult. Night of the Crime sits on a lot of if you know lists for a reason. It threads melodic hooks through steel-edged riffs with a confidence that makes you wonder how the gate never lifted. Talk to devotees and you'll hear the same refrain. This is top-shelf hard rock that radio never quite embraced. Sometimes the right record arrives in the wrong week. Sometimes it's that simple and that cruel. Kick Axe had all the tools for the big stage: anthemic choruses, power in the engine room, and the presence to own a crowd. They even slipped into pop culture under a different name, appearing on the Transformers, the movie soundtrack as Spectre General. It's a fun footnote that doubles as proof they were in the bloodstream of the decade. Ask around and you'll find people who never forgot the hit of their live shows. Then as ever, industry headwinds and changing tides block the next step. The through line here is maddening. You can do so much right and still miss the wave by an inch. But some stories didn't end with a fade out. Some bent in wild, unexpected directions that rewrote careers and legacies. Fastway. The best career arcs rarely move in straight lines. Fastway is proof. Built from the DNA of Titans, ex-Motorhead and UFO connections, the band blasted out lean, blues-infused rock that hit hard and clean. Say What You Will still pops up because it's built like a muscle car. Simple, loud, and fast. The twist comes later, when singer Dave King co-founds Flogging Molly and launches a whole new chapter that wins over a different universe of fans. That's not a detour, that's a reinvention. Warlock introduced a force of nature in Doro Pesh. Before the industry had language ready for women commanding heavy stages at that scale, Doro showed up with thunder in her throat and command in her posture. International tours, dedicated fans, and a presence that pushed open doors. She set a template. Honors followed in Germany and abroad, and her longevity turned opinion into respect. Even if Warlock's mainstream ascent paused sooner than it should have, Doro's influence never did. Ask modern frontwomen where the line runs back to. And then there's Anvil, the band that influenced the heavyweights before a documentary made everyone else realize it. Long before the cameras rolled, they were already etched into the foundation of heavier metal. The doc didn't create their story, it illuminated it. What sticks about Anvil is the sheer persistence. When trends shifted and the spotlight cooled, they kept going. That resilience turned into their legacy, proof that impact isn't measured only in plaques. Influence leaks into the future in ways the charts never catch. When you stack these stories side by side, a pattern emerges. One that says talent isn't a golden ticket, timing is a ruthless editor, and narratives can make or break you before listeners get a chance to decide. If the 80s taught us anything, it's that the best song doesn't always win the night. Labels can misfire, scenes can cannibalize themselves, media can chase spectacle and miss substance, but the records are still right there, waiting to be cranked with fresh ears. Revisit these bands without the old noise, and you'll hear it. Craft, energy, and heart strong enough to challenge your memory of what the decade sounded like. If the 80s got a do-over, a lot of festival posters would look very different. The question is simple. Who on this list would headline your fantasy neon weekend? And who did we miss that should have been massive? If this hit your nostalgia nerves or introduced you to a new favorite, subscribe to Rockin' Memories. New deep dives, lost anthems, and stories behind the riffs are dropping every week. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and bring a friend who still has a box of tapes in the closet.